Every human being wants to feel safe, seen, and heard. And the most important person that can help us feel safe, seen, and heard is ourselves. Us with ourselves. I know a lot of people who are rich but broke. Rich is something that lives on the outside. Might look like a fancy car, a nice house, lots of friends, money in the bank, the kind of wife or boyfriend or mate that you want. It might be fine clothes. It might be trips to exotic places. It might be an education that people would die for. It might be just talent galore. And the broke part looks like this. Being with yourself is hard. You stay busy because slowing down to be with yourself creates dis-ease. There's something inside that is unresolved and you don't have an answer for it, so your only answer is to run, to be busy, to distance yourself as much as you can from this disquiet that you don't have answers for. Broke looks like denying your feelings because your feelings make you afraid. Again, because you don't have answers for them. Broke is feeling like the only way that you are acceptable to yourself and others is through some idea of who you are versus your authentic being. Broke is to feel a disconnect and yet not have enough connection with yourself to actually take the steps necessary to connect. And here's the good news. Being disconnected from self is an experience that we all know. The difference might be in terms of the degree of disconnection. When we make a choice that isn't in alignment with who we are, we step away from ourselves a little. And when we make that choice and we step away from ourselves a little bit, it becomes easier and easier to step away from yourself and make other choices that don't align with who you say you are or who you want to be. And there are all kinds of reasons why we might do that. The bills might need to be paid. The road to success might feel like that's the only way. The amount of time necessary or feeling guilty, that this person who has asked you to do something that requires you to step away from yourself, that you owe them for whatever the reason. There's many ways that we become disconnected from ourselves. And the way that we reconnect is by acknowledging that a disconnect is present. We reconnect by recognizing that something important has been left on the table, left out of our experience. When we acknowledge that something important is missing, we are acknowledging ourselves. We are saying, wait a minute. There's a part of me that matters, that I value, that I need, that I want. And just that realization sends a message to that part of us. That feels good. If you have ever experienced, maybe as a young child, waiting for your parent to pick you up from school, and all the other kids are getting picked up and your parent isn't there, it doesn't feel good for a moment. And then when your parent shows up, you realize, oh, I wasn't forgotten. I am important. I matter. We want to be the parent to ourselves that always shows up, even if we show up late. We want to be the parent to ourselves that lets us know and feel our importance. How are we with ourselves at helping our inner self feel safe, seen, and heard? So one of the ways that you can be a good parent to yourself is to acknowledge how you feel. Anytime a friend listens to a friend's feelings, the friend that is sharing feels better, and the friend that is listening feels better. It's a partnership. So when you acknowledge your feelings, you don't even have to acknowledge them to anyone else. When you acknowledge them to yourself, you are being a good parent, a good friend to yourself. And when you feel your feelings, or you are experiencing whatever you're experiencing, and you don't judge yourself, you just acknowledge where you are and accept that this is part of your journey for the moment, then you are being a good friend and a good parent to yourself. Because a good friend and a good parent doesn't judge you for where you are. A good friend and a good parent seeks to understand and have compassion for where you are. And when we behave in that way with ourselves, then we are giving that deep part of ourselves that is insecure, that has doubt, that has fear, that is lost and doesn't know, we are giving that part the kind of acknowledgement and sense of value and worth that is needed so that we can move forward, make new choices, see ourselves in new ways that align with us being more whole. Another way that you can send the message of love to yourself is if you are experiencing dis-ease. The science says that the body loves being touched. The touch of a parent, the touch of a loved one, it feels good. It actually activates something called a hormone called oxytocin. And that feel-good hormone allows us to sort of relax, sort of experience a sense of calm. You can give that to yourself. Yeah, you can touch yourself. You can cup your hands around your cheeks just like your mother would and say, "Oh, baby girl, do I love you. Oh, baby boy, are you beautiful." And your body will experience that gesture in the same way it would if it was someone else doing that same loving gesture to you. We are important. We matter. And the more we begin to interact with ourselves as though we matter, using how we interact with others on ourselves as a guide for how we interact with ourselves, then we become proactive in a deeper level of self-care and self-love. And we are worth it. You are worth it. So love yourself. Don't judge yourself. Seek to understand yourself and have compassion for yourself. And when you can't, ask the open-ended question, how might I have more understanding, more compassion, more acceptance, less judgment? Asking that question is as good as actually having that, being able to give yourself that consideration in the moment. All right, I'm loving you. Our inner fitness community, I invite you to stay, join, and learn to turn wellness concepts into action. Living life well takes practice, y'all. So simply click the subscribe button to practice together, grow this conversation, and change the world. I can't wait to read your comments and hear how your life changes for the better. Thank you for subscribing. Let's thrive.